Good day, everybody. Glad to have you with us. Have an interesting episode here that was part and parcel of some conversations I had with the team here earlier this week, and then some things that were happening here at the house in terms of our dynamics and handling COVID 19. I thought were really interesting that I'd love to be able to go over. One of them was something that I saw in the newspaper Sunday that talked about a Pew Research report that showed that a large number, a majority of workers that were working remotely actually kind of gotten used to it and prefer it. And that managers, in a separate study, leaders were less comfortable with having employees work remotely. And it was a discussion that I had with the rest of the team that really kind of made me wonder why leaders wanted to be able to go and get employees back into the office. And we came to the conclusion that it was more fear-based. They had gone for years and decades of having most, if not all, of their employees in one centralized location where they could keep an eye on them. And now with remote working, that core pillar tenet of their leadership process was taken away from them. The leg was pulled out from underneath the table. And it's made them uncomfortable. And we've seen over the last several months with COVID that leadership and alignment to mission and vision has gone a variety of different tracks. Some of them have really circled the wagons and really gone and strived to go and meet the mission and vision, say a lot of government agencies. Some of them have gone and cost cut, saved money to be able to go and stay in business. And some people, some organizations have really taken this as an opportunity to evolve. That these new characteristics of working in a new world has opened up a variety of different opportunities for them to be able to go and explore. But the aspect of just day-to-day aligned leadership with a remote workforce, it is different. And I thought I'd discuss some ways that we talked about that might help you in spurring some thought with you and with employees on not only how to be able to go and work within this remote environment, not only in the short term, but possibly long term, and how you might be able to start building that muscle, strengthening up the fundamentals of aligned leadership without that leg of the table there of everyone being with one another. So the first aspect of this is really that feeling of control. That control that leaders believe they have when they have their folks in one location that they can gather up, they can see what they're doing, look over their shoulder, what have you. That may never be the case anymore. And leaders will need to start coming up with different criteria of what it means to lead, to make certain that things happen on time, in the proper way, in an aligned manner. Leading remotely requires a lot more trust. Trust in the aspect that you know what another person or a group is going to do given certain circumstances. One of the questions that we ask in our orgometric survey specifically talks to whether employees trust leadership. If you invoke trust amongst the people in your organization, on your team, you're going to be able to ask questions. You're going to be able to hold accountability. That trust is going to allow others to be able to say, you know what? I'm bought into this. I'm connected with the mission and vision. I know we have to rally around this particular project, this particular situation. I'm going to put my best foot forward, even though we're remote. That's one. Trust. Establish that. Two, communication is so much more different now in a remote world compared to before. The water cooler or hanging out over the cube wall to be able to go and just chat with different people theoretically doesn't happen anymore. But it really can. A phone call, a Zoom call, just check-ins to be able to see how things are going. A lot of those conversations don't necessarily go and get into work-related stuff. How's your day doing? How's your family? What's up with Jeremy at school? How's he taking it? Building that rapport, that human connection. We've seen that the remote nature, I think, in actuality has impacted that connection that we're able to go and have when we're physically close to one another. There's an energy that happens. That leadership needs to be able to go and be even more intentional and consistent, not only in bringing forth open communication lines, but to also regularly connect roles, responsibilities, and the work that's done to mission and vision. So, second one, the communication lines. Finding new, novel ways to be able to go and do the same things you were doing in the office. You'll see the difference here is only one of channel, of the way it gets done, the setting. The actual work, the things that are done are really similar. It's just how they get done is a bit different. And leaders need to get out of that fear mode and embracing that possibility. Number 3 gets into a subject that my family was dealing with, more me as much as anything, but my wife and I had talked about it, is this aspect of how so many people are cooped up in their house, request to stay at home to be able to go and tamp down this third wave of COVID-19. Isolation, quarantine. My son is now back from college, and he's going to be here for the entire winter term. He's going to be doing remote classes. And quite honestly, we're getting on each other's nerves a little bit because our body language, our conversations have been tinged with passive-aggressive nature, putting others down to be able to try and put ourselves up a little bit because we're stressed, we're anxious, and we're looking for that tension, that anxiety, because we lost touch of having positive conversations, digging into different issues, exploring possibles, just going and looking at a movie or going out and taking a walk. Now, these types of conversations may or may not come forth in the workplace because you're not always with those individuals. Your employees may hold themselves, steel themselves to the aspect that I can be good, I can behave for this meeting. But that tension and anxiety that's happening at home will trickle into the work product that's being done. That added anxiety restricts flow on being able to go and do the work in as timely a manner and as creatively as possible, because we're held a little too tight. So what can you do as a leader to be able to help foster a more positive environment? This happens when we're in the workplace too. We just don't want to accept that. We try and separate work from home. Well, by gum, work and home are the same now for a lot of employees. So what can you do? Structure positive, outward-looking, blue sky types of conversations that put people in a mode of positivity, that they're actually doing something moving forward. They're not having things put upon them of a virus, of staying at home, being solitary, not exercising. Engage in those types of conversations. Maybe for number 2, set up some time where your folks can go and talk about the different things that are happening at home. Have them work with each other to know that they're not alone, that they're all facing these types of things. Maybe there's some tips and tricks, like I'm mentioning here in this video and on this episode of the podcast. Give an opportunity for those folks to be able to go and talk amongst themselves. And third, like you heard in our conversation with Chief Operating Officer of Target, John Mulligan, tell them to take time off. Get away from the desk, from the Zoom calls. When we're in our workplace, we head to the cafeteria, we head to the water cooler, we go to someone else's cube or someone's office to be able to chit-chat and take a little break. There aren't those breaks here. Studies have been showing that there's actually more work being done in a remote basis in terms of time than there was back before COVID. And it's more stressful because there's a solitary nature to it. Force them to take time off. Take an afternoon off. Do not take any calls. Do not do any Zooms. Suggest that they meditate or go take a walk. Be there for them. Give them the opportunity, the space, the grace to be able to move away from that day-to-day work and focus in on themselves from a mental perspective, from a physical perspective. Because when they're more in tune with themselves mentally and physically, they're going to be able to go and drive the work aspect. So give your team grace to take time off, force time off. Give them the opportunity to become the best individual they can be, so they can be the best employee that they can be, connected with the mission and vision. So those are some ideas, 3 of them, that might catalyze you on some thoughts on how you can go and lead in an aligned manner in a remote environment. It takes a little bit more humanity. It takes greater perspective of looking at things from a different way and saying what's going to be the best in the end to be able to go and work in an aligned manner and get the different things that we need to get done with all these extra things that are there. I think through all this stuff, we're going to see much more of the interconnectivity that work and home really have. And we're going to see how we can go and be better at both. Thanks for the time. Remember, this is number 2 on video. If you want to be able to catch us up on our YouTube channel, Orgometrics, you can go and watch this and future podcasts. but we have the old staid, tried and true audio. I'm really enjoying this, actually doing some video to be able to go and get this out and have everybody see what my face looks like when I talk about this stuff. But I'm getting great feedback from folks that are listening to the podcast, saying that really enjoying not only the content, but just kind of the way things are presented. So thank you so much for taking that time to be able to give me great feedback on how I can make this better for you, more relevant for you, and show where I'm doing well. Next week, we'll have another episode coming out as we're coming towards Christmas. Stay safe, stay healthy, engage with your fellow employees and leaders with humanity and grace and mission and vision. Cheers, everybody.